Hello, welcome to Presume Technologies. I'm Venkat. This is part 45. In this session, we will understand why enums are required and what are the problems of not using enums. Now, what is an enum? An enum is a strongly typed constant. Now, don't worry about what we mean by strongly typed constant. We'll understand that in a later session. In this session, we will basically see a very simple program, and we will not use enums in that program and see what are the problems of not using enums. And then we'll replace those integral numbers with enums in the next session. Okay, so let's look at an example first. Now let's say I want to create a customer class. So public class customer. And this customer class is going to have two properties, auto implemented properties. Again, if you're new to properties, please watch the video series session on properties. So public string customer name, and then this is going to be an auto implemented property. So get and set. And similarly, I'm going to have another property, and this one is going to be an integer, and this property is going to be a gender. Now, so if the gender, see, if you look at the type, it's an integer. So if the gender is 0, then that means the gender is unknown. Similarly, if the gender is 1, then it's male. If the gender is 2, then it's female. Okay, now let's say I want to create a customer array. So customers is equal to new customer array of, let's say I want to hold 3 customers. And obviously, since it's an array, we have to use the square brackets. Now let's go ahead and create 3 customers and populate this array. So customers of 0 is equal to new customer, and name is equal to, let's say, Mark. And since Mark is male, we will pass in 1. Okay, so basically in the database, we are storing these customers, and customer name column is a varchar column, but whereas the gender column is an integer. So obviously when you prepare these customer objects and pass them to the database or retrieve from the database, you're moving these values in the form of integers and not strings. So that's why our customer object has this property of type integer. Okay, so we have one customer object. Similarly, let's go and create 2 more customer objects. So customer of 1, and this is going to be customer of 2. And customer of 1, let's say here it's Mary, and since Mary is a female, I'll put 2 there. And finally Sam, and Sam's gender is unknown, so we will say 0. Okay, now if you look at what we have done so far, we have just created a customer class, and we have created a customer array, 3 customer objects. Now what I want you to do is basically print out the customer names and genders that are present in this array. And to do that, we can make use of a for each loop. So for each, we can say customer, for each customer, and the variable is customer, in customers collection. What we want to do, we want to print the customer's name and the gender. So how do we do that? Console.writeLine. So name is equal to, and gender is equal to at. So name is equal to the customer object dot name, and similarly we want the customer gender, so we can say the customer object dot gender. But if you look at the gender property, that's an integer, so it will print zeros and ones because In these respective objects you are storing zeros and ones. So the problem with that is when we display these to the user, look at what's going to happen. Mark gender is 1, Mary gender is 2, Sam gender is 0. So what's this? It doesn't make sense. So what we need to do is probably have another method, and to that method you pass in the gender, which is nothing but 0, 1 or 2, and that method decides, okay, if it is 0 then it is unknown, if it's 1 it's male, and if it's 2 it's female. So let's write that method now. So let's go ahead and create that method. We will call that, maybe get gender method. So public static, and the return type of this method is going to be string, because it will return whether it's male, female or unknown. And then we'll call this get gender, and into this we'll pass the gender integer, whether if it is 0, 1 or 2. Now we can use switch here. So switch, and we will switch on the passed in gender integer. So gender. Now we know that if that gender is 0, so case 0, if it is 0 we want to return unknown. Similarly, if it is case 1, then we want to return male. So case 1, return male. And similarly, case 2, return female. And maybe default case, if the passed in value is not 0, 1 or 2, then we want to say return invalid data detected, something like that, just to alert the users, okay, the number that's passed in is not unknown male or female, so it's something strange, it's wrong data. Okay, now what we need to do, we will call this method and pass in the gender ID. So we will say get gender and pass that. Now if we run this program, you will see, okay, gender male, female. Okay, the output is fine. But then if you look at this program, the problem is here. Now look at this. We have a set of related integers, related numbers, 0, 1, 2. 0 means unknown, 1 means male, 2 means female. How do we know that? Okay, if it is 0, then I want to do some processing for unknown. If it is 1, I have to do some processing for male. Unless and until you look at the database or some documentation, you will not know 0, 0 corresponds to unknown, 1 corresponds to male, and 2 corresponds to female. Okay, and if this is a very small program, and this is the only gender, we have only gender here, and we have those related numbers 1, 2. Okay, but in reality there may be several related integral numbers. For example, I want to store that the directions like north, east, west, south, southeast, northeast, northwest, etc. And obviously, to store all this, instead of storing strings, we are storing integers. Let's say 0 for east, 2 for west, 3 for north, etc. Then to remember all those numbers, which number represents to which direction, it's really difficult. The program becomes more you know uh, unmaintainable if you use these integral in numbers. Actually, we have a better way of writing this program using enums. We will be looking at in a later session, in the next session in fact. Okay, so this program is less readable, and because of this, it becomes less maintainable. The application code grows, and as we keep adding these related numbers, it will become extremely confusing which numbers correspond which values. Okay, so that's what, if you if a program uses a set of integral numbers, then consider replacing them with enums. Otherwise that program becomes extremely unreadable and unmaintainable as we go along. Okay, actually in the next session we will see how to replace these integral numbers here, here, as well as here. Now, let's say, for example, I'm creating another new customer object and he is male. How in this earth will I know male means one unless and until I go ahead and look the documentation here or in the database or in somewhere else? Okay, that's why it's easy if you replace these related numbers using enums, which makes your program more readable and more maintainable, which we'll be looking at in the next session. Here you can find resources for ASP.NET and C# interview questions. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.